one of the incidences was that my elder brother was in college, and it was like a norm that I would wash his clothes every day, right?
Ew.
So then I refused to wash his clothes. So he went to school for like 2 weeks, and then he realized, oh shit, sorry, I don't have
French.
forgive my French. I don't have any more clothes. And then he came and asked me, how come? I'm like, hey, but my brother, I'm not your wife. It's time for us it's time for you to start doing this thing. And I remember just changing things from home. And because then people always think that it's something that is happening outside, but it's, from home.
Yeah.
Also, the other incidents in school.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Tangawizi Podcast. This is the podcast that has conversation that keeps you moving. For you who feels young, are young, or just, connects with young people. I'm your host, Caroline Momanyi.
Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. It feels so good to be seated here. My name is Dorsila Ogola. If you are new here, I hope these conversations just bring you the enlightenment you need to navigate life, especially as a young person. In studio today, we have a guest. I'm going to invite her to introduce herself, and then we can kick off the conversation from there.
Okay, so what do you want to know? Just my name?
Just the name for now. And then, we have to have this grand what the topic is.
Yeah.
We want to keep them guessing. What are they talking about today? Yeah.
So my name is Esther Kimani. Yes, and I'm a feminist and a Pan-African thought leader. I believe in intersectionality and feminism.
Wow.
Love it.
That's me, and I work with young people.
Yay.
Wow.
Adolescent girls and young women in all their diversities.
Wow.
Yes.
We are so honored to have you here.
Thank you.
I guess now the cat is out. Our conversation today is about identity and feminism. And we've been on this role on just unpacking identity. Like, who are we really, and what are some of the experiences that influence our identity? And we were like, wait a minute. There's feminism.
Exactly.
And it's very present in our communities, in our homes, So we wanted to have you here today so that you can help us and those that listen to us just understand what it is and how does it also influence somebody's identity. Right? And because you said you are a feminist, so maybe we can start from how did you become a feminist?
I think for me, really, I didn't know that I was a feminist when I was young. I think for me, it just started by just challenging things, just from the home, where, for a long time, I will wash clothes for everyone, my brothers, everyone, my sisters, my mom, for everyone. I, just thinking about even as simple as gender roles, while, my brothers are, led to either go and play, but then, all of us are stuck in the house, me and my sister, cleaning, washing. So it just started by challenging those. And I remember one of the incidences was that my elder brother was in college, and it was like a norm that I would wash his clothes every day, right?
Ew.
So then I refused to wash his clothes. So he went to school for like 2 weeks, and then he realized, oh shit, sorry, I don't have
French.
forgive my French. I don't have any more clothes. And then he came and asked me, how come? I'm like, hey, but my brother, I'm not your wife. It's time for us it's time for you to start doing this thing. And I remember just changing things from home. And because then people always think that it's something that is happening outside, but it's, from home. Also, the other incidents in school where, I was the YCS leader, the Catholic side of CU in high school. And then I was the one telling, the young people that, in school with, let's start talking about sex and sexuality.
Yeah.
So I almost got
in church. Even you have a knife.
Why did you feel like that?
Read the room. Read the room.
And people like, what? In the Catholic Church? We're going to this, conventions. And, they said, oh, you cannot be the chairperson anymore.
Wow.
It just lasted 1 year. Then the next year I was chosen again. And that's, for me, it's just started like that. I didn't even know if that is challenging patriarchy or systems or inequality oppression is part of feminism. I just started I was conscious about, this is wrong. Why should I do it? Can we then I negotiate power the way I can? So I think that's how for me it really started.
You're touching too many nerves.
Too many nerves. People are clutching on their nerves.
Too many, because we're in Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, and most of us here identify as African.
Yes.
And gladly Pan-African.
Of course.
But then are we saying, with that feminism outlook, mtoto asitumwe, mtoto asifanye kazi.
Of course.
What are we saying?
No, you see, kuna zile kazi utapewa nyumbani, utaona kweli wewe waonewa. Kweli. Kwa sababu wewe ni msichana.
Yeah.
Kwa nini iwe kila wakati wewe ndio utapika, utaosha vyombo, wakati brother zako wako wanaangalia TV
ama wanacheza.
Yeah. Sasa wewe utaanza kuona kweli it's not even about you, all of you being children. You'll just see that actually I'm being, asked to do these things all the time, and it's because I'm a woman and because I need to do it. And I think out of defiance, for me, even up to today, and up to today, I don't wash clothes.
Wow.
I think for me, because
you off the wrong way like that.
No, but I agree with her, because even me personally, I don't do well laundry, because I just feel like, I don't know, it kind of puts me in this box. Yeah.
Because I was beaten. You see, that's the thing. African moms, right? It's not like the way if you say no, they'll be like, why? No. I was...
Was there even room to say no?
There was
no room to say
you guys have reminded me. My mom used to have this sewing machine. You remember those old sewing machines? Yeah. And I used to admire how she would do it. So this one time I told her, see, if you teach me.
Yeah.
So she's seen there's interest.
Yeah.
And plus, me, I was a tomboy. So by the time I'm showing interest in home science things, my mom was like, there's a girl in there. Then she starts showing me how to do it.
Yeah.
Kidogo, coffee. So me, I'm like,
what did you do?
Even this one that is self-driven, I've decided that, I like this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just aligned to you being female in your unashona. Then I'm a kid,
Yeah.
But now I'm being beaten.
Because you are like,
the way I jumped off that ship.
Exactly.
I think my mother ajai believe. Acha nimwambia mimi ndio nilikuwa nimesema nataka, sasa sitaki. It's okay. I'm not interested anymore. So I hear you. Yeah. And for me, it wasn't like it was a must. I learn how to sew.
No.
But now the
out of interest.
Ours it was like a silent rule.
Yeah.
That you have to cook, you have every single time you go back for holidays. And I think I remember when I was in Form 3, I dreaded going home. Home because then I know that every single day I'll wake up, wash, make tea for everyone. Remove even just the act of just taking your clearing dishes, clearing the table. People will eat, my brothers, and just will walk away. And when I was like, no, this is not, it's not happening. And my mom up to today says, I'm very stubborn. But, that time I didn't even know if that is, that political consciousness is what is making me challenge the systemic inequalities that I'm seeing, even within the home. Wow. Even for me, starting to think about policies and outside. No. It started from the home. And, things like, those and for a long time I think I usually say in my like the washing clothes was the one that was, apart from the cooking and like that one hit me. So
to broke the cow's back.
That was it. So when I realized that these things I can outsource them, I don't do.
I think for me, Esther, what I'm also really appreciating from your story is a lot of people imagine that women just wake up one day when they're 35 and now they're feminists on the internet. Yeah. They don't realize these are things that from an early age you could actually tell within, just by observing the environment, that something is off in terms of how these roles are placed on us, the expectations that were placed on us. You could find yourself, you're doing really well in school, but all of a sudden, you being able to cook and wash clothes was the most important thing.
Yes.
And now you're a good girl if you are able to do that.
Yeah.
So indeed, the feminism that is out here today does not exist in a vacuum.
Yeah.
There is really a problem in the society, and that's where we come in, you know, to use our voices.
You know me, I love my Africa.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing, are we saying then that feminism is challenging some of our African values?
Yeah. To some extent, yes. Because then the other thing about African values, if you think clearly, like many years ago, and if you sit with your grandparents, you realize that those many years ago, there was a place for women. You know, there was a place for women. If you hear the stories, and that's why you even see, like, you know, during independence, before independence, you know, women were at the forefront as well. Women helped in doing things to ensure that men were able to go and fight for our independence. So there is in our history the place for women. But what we are seeing is that that, you know, the African culture and traditions, they're not static. Because think about who makes them. How are they enforced? You know, it's people.
What are their interests?
You see, it's people. So then over the years, you're seeing that that what we coin African culture. Some of them are influenced by religious fundamentalism, colonialism, because, you know, remember we got Christianity and colonial people were here. So then it's not really deeply African culture. Because if you really study African culture, if you even just talk to your grandparents, that culture that we had before really had a space for women. And women did have a voice. But what we are seeing now, it's the convoluted way that we're saying, oh, you know, this is not our African culture because, you know, African culture say that women should always be in the kitchen. But that's not it.
Because it makes you think ni kama African culture haikuwa na fairness, you know, which is really wrong. But as you're speaking, I am reminded of this good book that was written by our very lovely progressive Reverend Joya. You know, it's The Power of the Clitoris, right? And the day I read that book, I was very much mesmerized how the Kikuyu culture is a feminist culture.
Yes.
They want to fight you right now because
but go get the book. I mean, you must read something. Me, I read. I mean, I'm gonna find out what the Kisi culture's position was. But when I read that book, because when feminism was introduced to me as a concept, because yes, it's something I lived in, I existed in, but I didn't know it had a name.
Yeah,
you see. But then now I've grown up and I'm conflicted. I'm like, but me, I like fairness. I like equity. Why is this? It's throwing like we must fight for something. You know, why can't it just be equitable society? Then I read the book. My goodness, I'm like, the Kikuyu women are the luckiest women on earth. Because what is written in that book is like the Kikuyu culture came to me as a very matriarchal culture.
It is a matriarchal culture.
Even the white people and every other collaborators we have in the space need to learn from the Kikuyu culture. I promise you.
That's why the story of, you know, Wamboi and, I mean, the daughters of Mumbi.
Yes, the nine daughters of Mumbi.
Yes. You know, like Mumbi is such a significant figure within the Kikuyu culture because she had a voice. You know, she really, you know, fought. She was, but also she bore 9 daughters. You know, so it didn't mean that her reproductive, you know, her reproductive agency was not there. You know, she bore 9 daughters, and she and you see, like even now, you know, some of the stereotypes people say, you know, if you marry a Kikuyu woman, you know, she's not gonna live with you with their children. You know, like. They're the ones who are going to say, you know, in their home, but that's not it. It's just that the culture really empowered women. It's really purely matriarchal, but not in a way that it
offends the men.
No.
Imagine,
it's not in the way that
the men are not disempowered.
Yes.
Grab that book. It's very big. You need to have the agency to read. But it's a welcome. I mean, Reverend Joya really took his time for a Kikuyu man himself to dig deep and unpack that for us. It's really good. And for me, at that point, it showed me that this feminism, ideology, it shouldn't even be called an ideology.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
No, it's something that exists within our communities,
But
and it's a good thing.
I feel like we need to define this feminism because I feel like we may be speaking of one thing, but people are thinking about it in a very different way because of how the world has actually because it's defined differently by different people and in different spaces. So how would you define it?
Okay, so I have a definition that I really like. But then to just say the center of feminism is around equity, equality, justice, equal distribution of resources, that everyone starting on the same playground. But I love this definition by Louise. Like, she really, she's called Louise Tupin. She really makes it palatable in the way she defines it. Ikubalike. You know, because you are saying, Makua, feminism is about awareness. First at the individual, like you as a person, and then collective level, followed by revolt against the arrangement of gender relations and the subordinate position women have in them in a given society at a given time in history. It is also a struggle to change these relations in this situation. So you see, so it starts by individual. So that
the one you need to do.
You need to do for you to even,
for yourself.
you know, for yourself. And then after that, now collective power, all of us. But also seeing how do women exist within this society. Is it the women, are they being, abused? Are they given the, equal opportunities? And, when you're talking about feminism is around challenging patriarchy, which is, male dominance. People are aware, and this conversation around women being seen as a second-class citizen. So you become aware yourself as an individual, then you become aware as a collective, and then all of you have the revolt to challenge and systemic powers.
I love that. Because inamaanisha kama wewe mwanamke unaweza tuma fare na pia unaweza tumiwa fare. No, in a way that we understand this thing. And you know why I'm using that analogy? Guy, give me a chance.
Okay, you want to start throwing stories?
No, give me a chance. Give me a chance for this one.
Okay, fine.
You know why I've chosen that analogy? When I read Chimamanda's the shorter version, we should all be feminists.
Yeah.
And that's how I understood it. That even for me, individual, it means the awareness of where I am at.
Yes.
So I am with you, person X.
Yeah.
We are supposed to go out. You are not able to, at this particular moment, to finance our going out. It should not be, we will not go out. Because I am able to, as Caroline, we will go out.
So Caroline,
and to me a fair. But that's what it meant.
But also,
and the next time you can also do it.
Do the
lakini hautanitumia fair ndio unioppress.
Lakini pia mimi sitatuma pesa alafu nitukane baadaye.
Sasa unajua lazima tuweke separate. Kuna tabia mbaya, lakini kuna ile tu ukweli ni kwamba in feminism you're supposed to be very aware.
True.
Because even there are some women who have power more than men.
Of course. But also let's define what power really looks like.
Oh, I like that.
What power for women looks like, and how also society has defined power.
Okay.
Because then the way society has defined power is of if you are a woman who is able to speak for yourself, if you have a voice, if you can voice your thoughts, your opinion, that's one. And usually it's not even looked at from a positive point of view.
Exactly.
It's like, wewe ni mouthy. Ule ana mdomo kweli. Ule mbona ana mdomo.
Nilifanya siku katika high school. Unaniletea matroma zenye mouthy.
Really mouthy. And then the other thing is also about finance. Like now in this context, in the 21st century, it's about finance.
Yeah.
So if you are seen that you have finances, then of course you are a woman of power.
Yeah.
But also people are forgetting that even when women have finances,
it doesn't mean
anything. It talks about, think about the control.
Yeah.
Who is even controlling the money that women make? In so many households, it's not even the women who make that money.
I have been in a circumstance where somebody tells you, of course you're the one who has money as a female, but you pay the bill indirectly.
Yeah.
You know the way lakini mapenzi ni you take the money, you're the one who has the money, but you pay for the fetch ni ya maji. So you give the guy the money and then he pays for the bill.
Yeah.
Because the society must see
that it's the man.
Because we need to protect that man's ego.
I don't know what I was protecting. I was in love. I was in love, guys.
But the other thing I want to say, so that then, maybe to just cap it out, is that also, another scholar called Sarah Gamble says that feminism is also about the struggle, which is aimed at promoting women's access to equality, equity in a cultural that is dominated by men.
Yeah.
Because then if you think about it, like since time immemorial, let's think about the first wave of feminism.
Yeah.
The struggle there was, struggle around voting.
Yes.
Women were not allowed to vote. Women were not allowed to go to school. Women were not allowed to say anything. So systemically, women have been disproportionately affected by patriarchy in a way that then it just oppresses them. So then understanding feminism and being a feminist is having that political consciousness to even see and analyze it from a power perspective. That then when you want to dismantle it, you know where you're going.
Esther unaongea kizungungu. Unajua kwa nini?
Kwa nini?
Vile umeongea hivyo nikakumbuka our very immediate first lady. And others in her way of thinking. Or second first lady, sorry. And very passionate about the boy child.
Yeah.
And I am very passionate about boy child personally. But for me, it was the analogy or the foundational thinking. Because it's like they have, what can I call it? Like amnesia. They're forgetting that the world still is systematically oppressive to women.
Yeah.
True.
It's like now they're saying, it's enough.
Yeah.
Like we have put too much effort. Like, I never understand that.
And statistically speaking, this progress that we're talking about, that apparently we've made as women, is we are actually going backwards. We're not moving forward in terms of women having equal rights, equal access to opportunities and all of that. So even that analogy is because of a lot of mouth, but on the ground things are not
different.
Things are not changing.
Then what gives them that notion of now? It's like, because for me it also comes across as very difficult in some spaces to identify as a feminist.
Yeah.
Because automatically you are looked at, you are against men.
Yeah.
And that right now, when did the women movement start? According to them, it's enough time to have elevated the women to a certain...
In the 19th century,
it's enough. Wamesema ni enough. Sasa imetosha. Vijana wamekuwa wadhaifu. Wanahitajika sasa effort ziwekwe pale. So for me, I don't know.
Yeah, and na pia some of the analogy don't make sense. They tell you, sasa pia wasichana wanaenda shule. But wanasahau, think about the retention rate and transition rate of girls in school. Like out of school, it's very low. So they can start at the same time. But think about, and it's simple. At times I get so frustrated with that conversation because then people are forgetting. So let's say, mimi natoka Shikadabu huko kwetu. Shikadabu ukiangalia kusema la ukweli ni kama tu uko rural area. Kabisa vizuri huko
shopping center kubwa
siku hizi. Wajua hiyo ito nini hiyo the new road ndio inafanya kukaekae, lakini mimi nikilelewa huko kwetu tulikoko ni ushambani jamani. Mimi niko very proud. Village girl. Shikadabu. Na kizungu kingi na kizungu cha mshahara. Mimi kwetu Shikadabu. Sasa ukiangalia tuseme hata ukienda tuseme Shikadabu primary. Wakuta tuseme nasema
I'm not snitching on her.
Mimi nasema tuseme watu pengine wameingia the same time. Mvulana na msichana, right? Lakini ukitaona msichana akienda nyumbani, kumbuka mimi pia nilikuwa nafanya hizo kazi za nyumbani. Msichana yopewa kazi nyumbani, pengine hakuna pads nyumbani. Sasa akiwa wakati wake wa hedhi ana miss school. Sasa akifanya mtihani class 8, kwanza hata perform vizuri tuseme kwanza, but pili acha kiperform nyumbani hakuna pesa. Sasa utakuta parents anaweza kudecide naona mimi niko na mtoto wangu msichana na mtoto wangu mvulana. Nifanye nini? Wacha ni make sure huyu kijana anaendelee, manake kuna ile dhana ya kuwa ukifundisha kijana ndo atakusaidia baadaye, but tumeona hiyo si
ukweli. Lakini hiyo ni funny. By the way, it's a very funny narrative. Kwa sababu mpenzi mtazamaji, I did not roll my eyes, it was not me. Lakini hata unaenda na thought. Kwa sababu mimi nanishangaza because I'm looking at it this way. Heavily the community was investing time in the girl learning about this life skill.
Yes.
Kwa sababu kufua nguo ni life skill.
Ni life skill.
Kupika ni life skill.
Yes.
Yale majukumu yetu ya nyumbani ni life skill. Kusema kweli. Ambao everybody is supposed to be. To know.
Yeah.
Sasa they've invested that much, but then when it comes to upskilling, wanataka kumchukua yule ambao hana
skill, hana anything. And you see, when you are doing all these things, the cooking, the washing, your life was still happening in the background.
You are just
still
having
a lot of things, right? You're thinking about your school.
Yes.
You're thinking about, things are happening in the background, but you have to show up in all these other spaces. And apparently, you're not well suited to continue.
No. Yeah. You are very weak.
You're not.
Very weak.
You're very weak.
How will you? Utaendeleza jina
na community.
Momanyi.
How will the Momanyi name will die? Now I'm saying it's getting very personal. Let's circle back.
Okay, we are
Let's
back
circle
now.
back. So then, how does all this inform the identity of a human being?
Okay, so I think for me, in terms of identity, how I see it is that because, feminism is just not about you identifying as a feminist.
Okay.
It's also about walking the talk.
Yeah.
That, you are aware of the systemic oppressions. You are aware of how patriarchy continues to negatively affect women. And you start making changes. You start making small steps in your own way to start challenging the systemic oppression, right?
Yeah.
And with that, then it starts to shape your identity, because identity is shaped through how we grew up, who you are as a person. It's about self-awareness, right? And with that, then you identify yourself, naming is political.
Yes.
Very.
Naming is political. So you then start to identify yourself, you're a feminist. There are people who say, no. I believe in women human rights, but, I'm a gender expert, and they don't want to name themselves as
Feminist.
As feminists. But unless you're talking about identity in terms of sexual orientation, no?
No.
Okay.
Hatujafika hapo.
No.
Mpenzi mtazamaji, hatujafika hapo.
But for me, it's, then you being aware of who you are.
Okay.
And once you become aware of who you are, then you start walking the talk. Because, like we've also seen, sorry to say this, we've also seen, fake feminists.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how does that look like?
What
is this fake feminist?
Maybe not to use the word fake feminist.
But people that are not walking the
talk. People that are not walking the talk. But also to just understand that also, oppression and inequalities is very complex, right?
Okay.
It's very complex. And just maybe to just use an example of, being in an abusive relationship. It's not as easy as to say, because you're a feminist, you can wake up one day and leave. Abuse is it's very complex, because really it touches the core of who you are.
Yeah.
Then you lose your identity to an extent that you realize that you cannot exist on your own without this person, who this person is being abusive. And it takes long. You find that people have stayed in abusive relationship for many years, and they are feminists.
Yeah.
Hata unamuuliza ni nini hujafanyiwa. Like you've experienced everything.
Yeah. Washindwa, what is happening? What is it? But also just understanding that, such things, especially when it comes to violence, which is the reality we are living with now, that, we cannot miss to talk about it. It's really complex. True. It's really complex. And it also takes a lot of bravery, audaciousness, and courage to be able to do that. And it's the same as, the feminism. You challenging patriarchy, a system that is male-dominated, and then you still want love. You still, how do you still want to feel like this? Which is fine. Yeah. But you see, because that is what the system says, the socialization says that, this is how you should be as a woman. Because you have not removed yourself. You can't say ati mimi I'm a feminist and I live in my own utopia.
Lakini Esther unataka kusema huwezi kuwa feminist. Let's say, because as you've broken it down, it's challenging the patriarchal systems that continue to exist. Kumaanisha hizo, as people are checking when feminism started and that imetosha, they have not checked the other. To say patriarchy imekuwa na imetosha hiyo hawafanyi. But now, why is it that they would then look at feminism to say one, imetosha, pili, as a feminist you can challenge the system, but then you cannot still be in relation with the other gender.
No.
Because that's saying. What they say. Like you're supposed to be bitter, black, and single.
And
that's the narrative that is also put online. Like when you stand up to speak up for women, to speak up for women's rights, you're brandished as a toxic feminist, or you hate men, or men don't even. It's because you can't get the attraction of a man. That's why you feel like you need to be standing up for women. I mean, it's definitely. And
also saying that feminist women are lesbians. Those
that's
are
crazy.
but also because people forget the fact that
I was not ready.
No, but it's true. No, but that's the misconception. But also people forget that apart from the fact that we live in a system that is male dominated, there are good men.
There are,
of course.
So
for the good men in my life, I thank you. I'm choosing this opportunity.
So there are good men that actually are good allies that understand these things, and that then they can work with you. They can exist, as simple as knowing that cooking is a life skill that they should have. Anyway, I'm just, going a bit low.
I love cooking. I love cooking, but I don't do it at work. But listening to you today, I have also reflected that in some of the socialization that most of us have gone through, the way we were introduced to these things have really traumatized us. That you're very bitter when even somebody in the office tells you bring me coffee or picks you out as female. It's all of you, and you take notes. One day I told one person, taking notes is not a skill I want to grow.
It's very
but it was coming from that point of
you are a woman.
Why me?
Why because I'm a babe I should
have the best at writing.
No. Okay, the thing about it actually, when I actually think about this topic, I'm also just led to ask you this question, like the importance of men actually doing the work and being feminists, because it shouldn't feel like it's just women advocating for.
Can they be? Can men be feminists?
So I have people, I tell these people don't come for me.
Because it starts for F.
They'll come for you.
They'll come for me, which
actually,
is fine.
The day you came to Tangawizi, you have invited us. So we love when people come to us and then, we have conversations.
So for me, this is what I believe. I believe if you're the person who is perpetuating the system of oppression, it becomes difficult for you to be also the same person who is trying to dismantle it. Hear me out. I believe that men can be amazing allies, amazing advocates, amazing. But why I feel like they are not able to be good feminists, because then they live in the privilege. They live in the power. Every single time a man walks like this, they have power, they have privilege. They do not care. They can go home at 2 a.m. without feeling like something will happen to me. So they already, them existing like this, they already exist in power and privilege. And you existing in power and privilege within a system that you perpetuate every single day. For me, I don't believe that this is me. I don't believe that you can actually be in the forefront of dismantling it. You can be great ally, perfect.
Lakini siku na wale wazungu wenye wanasema Africa must be free. What are you saying?
That's a different this podcast just couldn't trigger me.
I'm telling you. And even when, Chimamanda said we should all be feminists, I think I don't know if I quoted her somewhere here, and saying the reason as to why we should all be feminists, because then, patriarchy patriarchy and colonial legacy and systemic inequalities affect all of us. But then we need to be able to ensure that all of us are fighting that. But then remember, patriarchy is a male-dominated system.
Yeah.
How do we then let the same people who are perpetrating it each and every day to be the same one to also challenge the power they have? They can't do that if they're allies. They can check on their privilege, perfect, every day. Then they can say, oh, actually, I do understand. You live in this system and I'm part of the system. How can I help you? Together we can do this. But then for them to be, and really, me, I'm always on that opinion. And I know people always come for me all the time because they say, no, Chimamanda said we should all be feminists, which I agree. And, she said,
it's a good idea.
It's a good analogy. But for me, understanding the concept of feminism and what is challenging and the inequalities and oppression that we have and the position of men in our society, I feel that
I think I'm getting the why we should all be. For me, what I'm getting is that there are some key values, even as you're speaking, for those that would want to challenge patriarchy, that they need to embrace.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm taking it from there on why we should all.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we all, at any given time, check our privilege?
Yeah.
At any given time. So it's something that you are not, even for those guys who are just sitting there now and they're saying, wanawake wamependelewa sana. They should be checking, like, are you...
Is it really
is it
true?
Or it's a perspective?
Yes. Yeah.
Or you're speaking from your point of heart, tumekataliwa na wanawake 1 million na saizi sasa umekaa chini.
Healing is also important.
You're making bad decisions here and there. So for me, in terms of why we should all, from that angle, I'm getting
sense.
it. But listening to you, it sounds almost like it would really be very oxymoron for the man that represents this
thing,
institution that we are calling
and benefits heavily.
Then they are kipaumbele. So hiyo ndio nafikiri nimeelewa.
Hivyo ndo nimesema. Like
Okay.
The tenets of feminism, equality, justice, equity, we should all advocate for that.
Okay.
And men and women can do that. But it becomes difficult for the men to be at the forefront of saying that, I am just Mimi, I am a feminist. But because then they actually are not only advocating, but they represent the actual inequality that we are, the system, the actual
by
system,
virtue of just being male. Unfortunately,
for just existing.
Yes, they represent that.
Yes, for just existing, and they have the power and the privilege.
I have a question. For young girls and boys, right? And just as we've said, it appears that headway has been made, right? But then again, when you on the ground, there's no much headway. We're actually regressing in the movement. And so as young people, where sometimes it just feels, even just in the wake of femicide and all of that, it just feels like it's tiresome work.
Yeah, it is.
And gruesome. And I mean, it's very exhausting.
It is.
So there's also that notion of just allowing it to be and playing in the field, just getting into the arena and playing it, in those power dynamics and all of that. What would you say to such a young person? And what's your advice in terms of what do we need to do? Like a 16-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 24-year-old who's navigating these spaces, which even sometimes they will tell you this is a feminist space. But when you're living, your lived reality in that space, you find there's nothing like that there.
I think for me, that's where the concept of self and collective care comes.
Okay.
You need to find your own community. And the community will be able to reignite the fires you have. Because then we've seen that there's so much toxicity that is happening. And if you are of a different opinion, then you're an anomaly, right? So then you find that as a young person, as adolescent or, young person, teenager, that you're growing up and being conscious and you're seeing these systemic issues, you challenging them, of course, at times you become an anomaly. But then you need to be able to find your community. Because to be honest, even myself, who does this work, that live this life, it's exhausting. It is so exhausting because every single time, every single day is one thing around another. So, like, for example, because I work with Zamara Foundation, a feminist organization that works with adolescent girls and young women in all their diversity. You imagine that we are in Kwale, then you meet a young mother, a 15-year-old, who has 3 children. Her 15. First child is 4 years. The other one is 2 years. And now she's breastfeeding. She is just 15 years.
Yeah.
So you can't say that, oh, you know what, this one, wanted to have sex. So definitely she was being
That's
defiled.
a minor.
It's a minor.
It's a
She was
child.
being defiled. And not even once. Each and every time, right? Then you see, so that's what, you're dealing with. Then you come back and then, of course, then you try to support and help and see how best they can get support that they need. And then you come back to Nairobi or to wherever. And then that day, you're just sitting like this, 97 women were killed in the last 3 months. Wow. Then you haven't even finished, doing, like you haven't even finished because people think about outside, right? People always think about it's them. No, your friend calls you. Oh, you know what? Yeah. My husband yesterday threatened to kill me. You're like, what? And then now you're like, you haven't even stayed together. You're thinking, the reproductive choices are going to be repealed because there's this policy that is being introduced in parliament that will ensure that women do not have access to adolescent girls and boys do not even have access to comprehensive sexuality education. You're like, so how do we then reduce the child sexual debut of young persons? So every single time, every day, there is something. So it is exhausting work. Yeah. It is exhausting work. And if you're political conscious, it means that you see this oppression.
You can't unsee.
You can't unsee. You can't say, you know what, I did not see it. You will see it from your own home, how your parents is treating you, to the way your friends are talking to you because you're an anomaly, to where you're going in school. So you will see it. So, and it becomes exhausting and you'll get burnout. So you just need to find a community of people like you that then you're able to have that collective care. Remember we said feminism starts from the individual
to the collective.
So it just means that then if you're able to find your people, your community, then that gives you a little bit of, okay, what are some of the successes? What is it that I'm doing in my own space that makes sense, that I'm trying? Then you're not beating yourself up to say, oh, you know what, this and this. Or if you go to a place and say, hey, what about men now? You are talking, this empowerment is finished.
Watufungia studio.
No. You're like, what about men? Amo, you're doing this. You're not even finished. You haven't even finished. You're like, the rate of, suicide are very high in men. Which is true.
It is.
But also, can we, unpack why? And also, so then you're like, okay, so what do I do? Should I stop being a feminist? Should I stop doing this work? It's exhausting. You just need to find your own community.
Poleni sana. Okay, poleni si wote. Poleni si wote.
I mean, we're all affected.
Si wote wanawake na wanaume. Poleni si wote. Poleni si wote. Yeah. But I'm liking the element of collective. Yeah. Because also ujamaa is part of our African values again. Ubuntu is part of our African values. So we cannot separate this element of feminism and the men in the society. They must.
They have to exist.
They have to.
Yeah.
But also it's the consciousness of understanding which role can you play.
Yes.
Even when you enter in the space.
Yes.
And then there's also the willingness to be in the space. Because I feel like when women are gathering in community, there's always that one person who's asking, how can we involve men? But then again, you find that an invitation was actually made to men. And they intentionally chose not to show up.
Yeah, but also we should be unapologetic place to our spaces. Like, really. And this not being radical.
I mean, guys.
I think we should be unapologetic in creating safe spaces for women of community.
Yes.
And to being unapologetic about it is that then also encouraging men to create their own space.
Exactly.
And also appreciating also the space where both of them are there.
Can exist.
I'm liking this because all the solutions are with us in the society. Because even as we're talking about feminism, collectiveness, care, there are things that can benefit anyone.
Yeah.
Lakini mimi sijawahi sikia pahali hata wanaume wamesema hii collectiveness, the way women are meeting together in their chamas, whether they are contributing money or making themselves feel good, because you know, man, life is hard. Why can't they say, let's learn from that and replicate? But they will be the same ones wanasema uko mkenda uko nini mnafanyanga. Why should women be together? When you go for those chamas, you're just doing bad things. Like, but you can't be together.
Yeah. I think what they don't even understand is healing, because there's patriarchy that exists here, and it affects men and women. Women at the worst of it, right? But the healing of it all really is in community. We can't separate ourselves from the community in order for us to heal. So for them, especially being blinded by the privilege, they can't see that. And also, me just being petty, also jealousy is a thing. I said what I said.
You said what I said.
Umesema ndio ikutoke.
Jealousy is also a thing, because you leave those spaces looking vibrant, feeling whole, feeling healed, and they're wondering, what is this secret?
Ukifika nyumbani unauliza mlikuwa mnafanya nini huko? You know? Why do you go for what do women do in those things? What do boys?
That's why I feel like men should create those spaces for themselves. And be able to lead themselves. You should not think about, I should get into that already spaces that is being created by women. Why? And we should be really be unapologetic about it, and to say that it actually does happen, and men can do that, and it's okay for them to do that. And also to just challenge this notion of toxic masculinity that we are seeing now. That now, if you to my fair, if you love, you're simping. You know these things that we are hearing every single day. And it's making men to be men again. And it is in these spaces, if they create, they'll start challenging these notions.
Itu Kenya.
Esther, you're really triggering us. Trigger.
Is it the episode mbili? Episode vitu ni nini? Mimi najua tu moja. Kwa zile umesema. Hiyo ingine ni nini? Educate me at what?
Simping.
What is that?
Just for being a normal, caring, kind, loving.
If you become a normal, caring, loving kind man, toxic masculinity says that you're simping.
You're simping for this babe.
You should not be a simp for this babe.
So we can't be good to
each other. Yeah.
He has to be gangster with you.
Yes, you have to be gangster.
Yes.
But what is love?
There's no love nowadays.
But
you should not love.
What is empathy? There's no room for empathy. What is I'm saying big words.
So anyway, they should create space to challenge those notions. Now you even find that even men are even afraid of even buying flowers.
Why?
Because then their friends will be like, "Oh my God, you're simping." How?
But that's a good behavior. That's a good expression.
I mean, even for yourself.
I buy for myself. I love it. It makes me happy.
Add beauty into your life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah,
guys.
Toxic masculinity now, it's bad.
Anyway. It's like women will forever be at the center of everything, clearly, from this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, everything in society will always revolve around women.
Around a woman.
Positively and
negatively.
Yeah. Because there are things that are working.
Yeah.
There are trends, there are mannerisms that women are embracing that are working
for them.
But instead of probably the other gender to look, learn, and replicate, now they're like, let's give them the opposite.
Let me throw a spanner into the works, whereby now there's the religion and this notion of women have to be leaders. So they feel like, according to my assessment, like they can't learn anything from women, right? It's for them to teach us stuff.
Or like your brains, you came empty.
Empty? The only time you can show up is when you're cooking, serving, listening, obeying, all those types of things. But essentially,
you can't give some intelligence.
Nothing intelligent. But then again, I'm just like, even for them, they need to find a way to heal themselves. But then again, healing comes from community. You can't just heal separately by yourself. And you cannot heal by putting down the other gender as well. Yeah, it has to be very balanced. Yeah. But I would love also to I don't know if you have time for one question.
Have time. Whoa. We have time. We have time. We have the whole day.
We can talk about this all day. I mean, the world is changing, right? And patriarchy, of course, it serves a higher power, which to some level is like capitalism.
Yes.
And there are gender roles also. Yeah. And it's people are fighting on the internet. And
that's the new battle.
That's the new battle of the fittest.
Exactly. Yeah, we are fighting on the internet because apparently we can't just decide who cleans and who pays bills, right? What do you think about that conversation, even as a feminist, and how we can navigate that in a healthy way? Without anyone feeling like they're being oppressed, right?
Yeah. You know that, oh my God, that is such a
very touchy
but conversation. Yeah. Very touchy conversation. So for me, really, I center it on communication because the other thing about it is that it's two people, right? You chose to be in whatever partnership this is. But also it starts from, start from home. Some of us who are raising children, raising boys, raising girls, are we giving them equal attention when it comes to even gender roles? You see, like gender roles, for me, I say they're life skills.
Okay.
They are life skills. They're part of life skills. So it starts from there. It starts from socialization. Then when you come and, you're saying, oh, I'm a traditional man, whatever. So for me, really, what centers that is communication. How do we communicate so that then whatever happened if you're in a union or if you're in a community, none of us is feeling oppressed, and it's okay if in your relationship is 50-50, if it's 60-40, if it's 70, if that's what works for you, then it works for you.
Yeah, because you've said it's about awareness.
It's about awareness.
Like, where are you? What is the situation like? What are the resources that are presenting from this side to...
Yes.
So even your current relationship will not be like your next one.
Yeah. You see, that's the thing. But also understanding that also, the people really also don't want to talk about it. Understanding that even when it comes to... Okay, so generally the burden of care at the community is given on women.
Yeah.
150%.
Unpaid care work, we talk about, equitable distribution of unpaid care work. Those are some of the conversation we have. The recognition around unpaid care work as work and contributing to the development of the country. Those are the conversation we're having. So for me, it's also about recognition of that within your partnership, because it's always within it doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It's a happen, and that's why I'm saying these things, you start challenging them within your circle of influence. Is it your home? Is it your community? Is it your relationship? Is it your work? And all these things, and it's for you to have the communication and have someone that understands that, then you can be able to create a space that works for the both of you. Wow. And for parents, you create an environment where, your girl child, your boy child feel valued, feel loved, feel like they are contributing. And also, like, if you have a boy who loves to cook, so you're not the one who's saying, why do you like going to the kitchen all the time? You're not the one starting to even challenge, to start making them feel like, they don't know. Like I'm different because I love cooking, which is okay, So it starts with, what are some of the things that you're challenging within where you are? Is it your home? Is it your community? Mwanzo hata kwa community. Sasa ni December tuenda nyumbani, right?
Jamani, mtoe kucha.
Sasa hiyo tuenda nyumbani December.
Bila kukata salad. Kuosha matumbo lakini.
Huko nyumbani uliza, jamani. Caroline. Huyu bwana yuko wapi?
Mbona ndio maswali ya December?
Maswali ya December, serious.
Where is your husband? When are you having your next child? Where is the first one? I don't know maswali ya December.
So and it's tough. And at times people will say, I can't talk to my granny about it. But then you just have to have the conversation. Yeah. Like, why? And you find that environment, all of you having very healthy conversations, while, you'll still have, like, of course, negative or people saying, no, this is so modern, you're pretending to be, woke or anything, but you'll have started the conversation.
That's the most important thing.
You will have started the conversation.
Clearly. we will not end if we don't choose to. No, but I like it. It's very relatable, you know, and it's not something out there. It's our everyday. It's our everyday. So I'm thinking, what is the one thing that you'd love to leave our, people that are listening with? Because we are also at a crisis of just people identifying with things. People are quick to go like, I identify as a feminist. I am championing this. But what is important when we are just talking about identity and feminism? What is that one thing that they just must have at the back of, as a parting shot?
Wow. Okay. So for me, really, we must educate ourselves.
Okay.
Like, that's one thing. You must educate yourself. You must be political conscious about the systems, about the issues. And you must walk the talk, really. It's just not, because, of course, we've talked about this. Naming is political. It's not just about the name. Yeah. It's about the walking of it. It's about everyday life, and not to, think about feminism as this elitist context. Concept. Yeah. It's for elite who've gone to Harvard or no. It's everyday work, and if you identify yourself as feminist, you do the work. Understand the concept, educate yourself, be political aware. And also, and at times when you're being challenged, you also don't have to respond, really.
Yeah.
Where?
I love that. Watch out, wajikule.
And the educating is for everyone,
Hii topic ni yako kabisa. What say you?
We say a lot. But as just to wrap this conversation, I think for me is to understand that if just because I'm free and someone else is oppressed, I don't have freedom. I am free when everyone is free.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you exist in that space whereby you think you're free because you're not experiencing the immediate oppression, then you're literally lying to yourself, because in due time the oppression will come knocking right at your door. Yeah. So for me, I think that awareness that you speak of, for us to be conscious all the time. And I feel like feminism as a movement on its own identifies and sees oppression from a very wide view. Yeah. And it allows us to be better human beings, not just, we're not fighting for women only, I feel like. Yeah, we're fighting for very high values and good systems, and it will benefit everyone. And also, I feel like I have to say this, if you're in that space, if you're not walking the talk, then you are adding pain to the movement, and it's regressing us instead of pushing us forward. And also, when you get access to power, you have to be very conscious of what you're doing with that power, because you stand the risk of recreating a different form of oppression.
Yes, especially as leaders. Oh, you've touched a nerve.
I like that we are ending on a high. I like that we are ending on a high.
We also need to check, because even women are perpetrators of patriarchy.
Yes.
So we need, checking our powers.
Exactly.
It's important, because you might find yourself, you're the one that is also perpetuating it.
Yeah.
So
oppression,
wow. God. This is Tangawizi Podcast. We promise to have conversation that keep you moving.
Yes.
Please, may your eyes be open. May your heart be open. May that, consciousness be awakened for you to introspect and just scan your power, scan your privilege.
Yes.
And let's collectively make the world a better place.
Yes.
This has been our time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.